So there's a really interesting point here on the invisible person, and this is on page 84. And if you've been following along with the videos, you will have heard a little about this already. But he makes a different point here now. He says that we tend to see ourselves primarily in the light of our intentions, which are invisible to others, while we see others mainly in the light of their actions, which are visible to us. And because of this situation, we have a situation in which misunderstanding and injustice are the order of the day. And he says that, so I'll just kind of recap that idea about invisible person. So he's saying that the reasons for the actions of others is invisible to us. Most of a person is invisible. And by person, of course, we mean what's operating, what's behaving. And all of that is the intentions of a person. And that is invisible. We cannot access the mind of another person, and that's why there's this whole concept of trust. If we were like the Borg and we could understand everything about a person, if we were all connected through our minds and we knew everyone's thoughts and feelings, there'd be no worry about trust, because you could easily detect when someone was had ulterior motives, or being deceitful, or being a liar, or whatever it might be, being dishonest. But because we can't, we have to rely on people's actions. Actions are what we can see. We cannot see their intentions. And even if we ask, what are your intentions here? We can only trust what they say, because they can still be deceitful. What they say being an action. But we cannot access how they are really feeling. We can only just depend or trust that they are revealing the truth about how they intend to act in a certain situation. And so he says here that what creates a lot of conflict is that we assume that, first of all, that people, when we do something, that people are aware of our intentions when we act. But that's not true. Our intentions are invisible, and people only more or less trust us in what we do. And so we cannot assume, and we cannot at all believe. It'd be wrong to believe that when you act a certain way and you intend something, that other people know that you intended it. So if you do something and it causes an accident, people will tend to be mad at you because they think you did it on purpose, because your actions seem to be so. You did the deed, like you dropped the lamp, or you hurt somebody. But our intentions may have been not to do that. And so the only way to reveal that is to explain that you didn't mean to do it. But of course, they still have to trust you that that's what you're saying is truth. So same with that. So with that, we also make the mistake that when other people act, we assume that their actions were their intentions. And that's not necessarily the case. Again, people can make mistakes, or people can just do things that were wrong and they shouldn't have done it, and they can fess up. And hopefully when they fess up, they are truly sorry and won't do it again. But obviously sometimes they weren't really sorry, that they were only really sorry they got caught, right? So that's something to keep in mind, is that we shouldn't necessarily be assuming. We can't assume that people know our intentions. We have to make them known as much as possible and try to be consistent with those, and then people will trust us. In the same way, though, we also have to remember that other people's actions are also not necessarily their intentions, and we can always try to be clear with people, and what's your motivation in doing this. And he says that he contrasts this with, so he brings in John Donne and religion a bit here, and he says that when the commandments say love your neighbor, right? The author says, you cannot love your neighbor unless you love yourself, and that you cannot understand your neighbor unless you understand yourself. There can be no knowledge of the invisible person who is your neighbor except on the basis of self-knowledge. And so that's another thing that kind of runs in this book, is the whole idea of self-knowledge, that if you can get a hold of yourself and your own intentions and desires and instincts and etc., then you can better understand that other people go through the same thing. Other people have conflicting values, or don't know what to do, or make mistakes, or maybe they're rash, or maybe they lack courage, and so they're indecisive, and people go through the same things that we do. And if we better understand and can control ourselves in how we make decisions, that we also can better understand when other people are going through the same issues.